Afternoon.
Good to hear.
It's afternoon? Yeah, my name's Tim Chase, founder of Truchallenge, a business that Gilberto and I launched in 2018, 2019. So I'm the founder of Truchallenge. I'll get everyone to do a quick introduction of who they are. So, do you want to have a go?
Yeah, I'll do my best. Good morning, everyone. It's great to be here. I'm Gilberto Silva, a Brazilian former player. The national team and Arsenal former player. But here today, I'm surrounded some other supporters, but I say to them, no one is perfect,
There's not one
but
down here.
Chelsea,
we enjoy time of being together, as a football fan and friends, and it's great to be here with all together.
Nice. Buddy?
My name is Khody. I am the co-founder of digital mental fitness app My MindPal, which my business partner Jason will be telling you a little bit more about what we do. I'm also a psychotherapist in private practice as well, so I oversee the psychological content that we provide, and I see a lot of clients in private therapy, and I've been very busy over the last couple of years.
I'm Jason Blyth. I started My MindPal with Khody. Khodi's the clinician, I'm not. I work on the business end, mainly corporate well-being. And the purpose of My MindPal was to find ways to make, using digital, to make tools that Khody would normally use in private practice available to everyday employees, often those that are prevented from using those kind of services because of cost and scalability. So that's what we've been doing for the last few years, mainly public sector. We support a number of NHS trusts, which we're proud to do, particularly through the pandemic. And we're now working with Tim and Gilberto because they're doing great things for young people's mental health, in particular with social media, and we're going to work together on that. Tim can probably explain more about where that comes from.
Yeah, so Gilberto and I launched a platform called Truchallenge in 2018 with a number of football clubs and players in the Premier League. The idea of the platform was a safe place to engage with young people to get them active. And the results we had from that were far better than we thought, and we immediately realised we were out of our depth and had to get some grown-ups involved in the business. So, for example, we did a challenge. So the project, imagine a YouTube platform that looks like YouTube, but people can respond to what's going on the video rather than just watching it. So it's a platform that inspires engagement from your fans, but also is a safe place where people can post things free with the possibility of abuse. So we did a challenge with one of Gilberto's contacts, Fred from Manchester United, who had an audience of 800,000 on Instagram at the time. In 3 weeks of the first ever challenge, we got 57.5 million impressions, 4.1 million pieces of engagement. His social audience grew by 43%, and his engagement on that social audience grew by 246%. So we realized by listening to the fans and posting stuff with regards to what the fans were posting and giving them some acknowledgement, we knew we were into something quite special. So then we started to think about, well, actually, is this a platform where it's free from abuse and gives people the confidence to post online? Is this something that is more relevant to the world rather than just football challenges? And we realised it was. So we've got a new project, a new platform coming out in August with the start of the football season called Striver. And it's a platform that's changing the metrics of social media, i.e. what's important in terms of likes, views and followers, of things that everybody's caught up in and drastically helps deteriorates their mental health, which I'm sure you can talk about shortly. It also tackles online abuse. So it's a platform you have to verify, and we verify who you are before you can even take part in any of the content on the platform. And it's a platform that improves your mental health rather than negatively impacts it. So maybe a good starting point, rather than listening to me talk for the last 5 minutes, is getting you guys to say some stuff. So what do you think is the sort of negative connotations, either of you, about social media currently?
Well, I think the thing is, social media is, I guess, the perfect weapon for both the best traits in human beings and the worst traits. So, social media can do a lot of good. It's when it attacks people's self-esteem and people become involved in it in negative ways. So we haven't got an issue with it, and it's about the responsibility of how it's moderated and used correctly, which is what we're excited about working with you guys, because when you started to talk about, the parameters that you're going to put in place, curfews, so that young people aren't sat there all night in the middle of the night on their phones, and although that's dressed up as parental responsibility to ensure that doesn't happen, we have to protect kids, and sometimes it does happen, and so, that's and Khody can tell you the specific problems, the pros and cons of social media, and psychologically and biologically.
Yeah, I think social media can be both protective and potentially harmful as well, as far as mental health is concerned. And I think one of the things that the research shows is it's how we use social media. So generally, one distinction being whether we use it passively or whether we use it actively. And there's a lot of evidence, certainly over the pandemic as well, when a lot of people were going online more, that when you were using social media for one-to-one communications and for direct messaging and for funny memes and things like that, that it was actually quite protective to mental health. But it's this, when it's being used more passively and we're scrolling through, chasing those likes, then you've got this sort of highly addictive nature of social media. The dopamine fix combined with the instant gratification means that social media is a perfect vehicle for those sort of addictive urges. And it's when you don't get those likes and you're continuously having those urges to constantly be checking in, that's when you could have anxiety and fear of missing out. And then somehow, by making those inevitable social comparisons, believe that your life is not as good as somebody else's life, and therefore maybe I'm not as worthwhile a human being as somebody else might be as well. And so there's a number of ways that it can be potentially damaging, but I think if it's used in the right way, then it can be very protective to mental health as well.
I think one of the things I'd like you to say about Tim is the reason you did it specifically with your boy, and if you don't mind sharing that, because you know, it's about the exposure to young people. We're all dads up here. I'm a grandfather as well, and I don't know enough time. And so, you know, worrying about the way young people engage. And interestingly, people say to me, but you're in digital mental health, and what we're about is using our tools a few minutes a day where they're necessary, whether that's to deal with stress or anxiety in the moment, or to build you know, a positive trait for the future. But what we're very much about, and what you guys have said, is it's about getting out there. And what you've done is to actually say, let's use online to get kids offline, doing the things that we grew up doing without being stuck on a device all day. And obviously, the reason you specifically did it was, I can't remember, Ryan's toy review. So I'll give you a bit of a story where the idea of Truchallenge came from. So I became a single dad in 2017 to my 3-year-old son, and I was struggling to find out why he wanted to be on an iPad all the time. My childhood was play football till I was bored, and then I'd ride my bike, and when I was bored riding my bike, I'd play football, and that was my life till possibly 35, 36 years old, maybe a little bit older. And I quickly realised that as I was a father, I was never going to be cooler than an iPad, I was never going to be cooler than YouTube, and I was never going to be cooler than YouTube, probably never even as cool as Gilberto Silva. Was handsome. I was trying to find a platform, so all he spent his life doing was watching a young YouTuber called Ryan's Toy Review on YouTube. And if you don't know Ryan's content, he was a 9-year-old boy. Toy companies would send him the latest toy, and he'd unwrap it and play with it, and then his audience would come and say, Mum, Dad, I want to buy the toy. So it's a great business model. I think the kid's now worth $95 million. And so I was like, well, do you know how many toys you've got in your bedroom? Why aren't you going playing with them? Why are you watching a kid playing with toys in a video? It just didn't make any sense to me. So my thought, well, actually, now we know what we call these people are influencers. What can't we use? Isn't there a platform where using the power of an influencer actually engages a child to do something interesting, and as you said, in the real life? So the first idea I had to kind of rationalise it was, hi, this is Ryan. This is how you build the best fort. Go and grab your mum and dad's duvet plus 10 pillows and show me the best fort you can make. And that was literally the first inspiration the idea came from. So we moved on from there to sports, because we thought that actually sports is the place where people don't mind showing how good they are and aren't shy about sharing content about themselves. So that's where the original idea came from. And that's when Gilberto and I met. So maybe you want to talk a little bit about the journey of glory of working with Tim Chase and Truchallenge.
That's good, you know. We've met back in 2016 in Soccer X, you know, in another event, which was, on that time I was sports director in Greece at Panathinaikos. And then we met, you know, and after we kept the friendship, and he spoke to me about the project. I was fascinated by the way he starts everything, you know, as a single dad, think about his child, his boy, and I said, listen, this is something very special. You have to find a way how to spread this message, how to involve more people, how we can make people aware of that, because for some reason nowadays it's not so easy. The kids growing up, as I grew up in my very little village back in Brazil, as I could play football on the streets, and nowadays, everyone has a phone. Even 1 year old, 2 years old kids, they have a phone, they know everything. I was playing football, but I have no toys to play. When he told me about that, we could use the sports to make them interact with their friends, but especially on a safe place. I think when he told about that, told everything to me about his values, about his things about family, about the others, not about his kid, but about other kids around the world. And then there is a beautiful story he told me about the girl. Would be great for you, if you could share with us about the message here, the power of what we can achieve in order to help others, in order to help people, in order to inspire the kids to do better in life, in sports, in school, in everything they decide to do to progressing. I'd love you to share the story for us. It's very emotional, very touching.
Yeah. Thanks, Jiva. So one of our first ever challenges was with a young YouTuber called Kill Skills. I think he had 145,000 subscribers on YouTube at the time. And he wanted to just test the platform. I think it was our second ever challenge. So he devised a challenge where it was and it wanted to be an inclusive project. So it was every Friday for 3 weeks, he would do a new challenge. So the first challenge was do 15 keepy-ups. If you do 15 keepy-ups, you're into the next round. The next one was do a household trick shot. So you roll up a pair of socks and kick it into a washing machine. And the third one was show off, show us why you should win. And I think we had a response from literally every single country in the world of a young person trying to get involved in this challenge series. And we narrowed it down to 2 young people. One was Becca from the north of England, who was 9, and Jackson, who was from Wales, who was 7. And these kids were incredible if they were grown-ups. They were just genuinely incredible, incredibly skillful, incredibly talented footballers. And we couldn't decide, so we said, well, why don't we do a nice thing here? We'll double the prize. The prize was Champions League football, a football boots of your choice, and a football kit of your choice. So why don't we double the prize, but put a vote out on social media to give these young kids a bit of a boost of what was going on. So we put a poll out on Facebook for who do you think you should win. I did a quick montage of each of the kids. 348,000 people voted on 2 kids that nobody's ever heard of before. And when I told the parents, said what we were going to be doing, saying, look, your kid's going to win the prize, but we wanted to give you a bit of exposure. Told Jackson, his dad was really happy, and told Becca. And Becca's mum started crying on the phone. I was a newly single dad, so I was quite emotional at the time, and said, do you mind me asking why this is quite so poignant? And she said, you'll never understand what this means to Becca and my family. And I said, do you mind me asking a bit more? She said, Becca's autistic. She's so autistic, the way she communicates with the outside world is with her football. It's her security blanket. She goes to school with it. It's under a desk in her class. It's the only way she has any connection with the outside world. And from that moment, we kind of realized, actually, we're doing a lot more than we appear to be doing on the platform. So it's not all about likes. It's not all about followers. It's not all about views on the platform. It's actually getting them out into the real world and feeling that sense of achievement, which you can probably talk about, and how important that is. Actually, an artificial dopamine hit of a like, someone liking your video, isn't quite the same as doing a trick that you've been practicing for 4 hours, that your heroes set you the task to do.
And the plans to take it well beyond sport, by the way, because sport isn't for everyone. I mean, there are a million. I think you came across that in one of the chats you've had with quite an interesting body that I don't know if I can mention, but about where this could be music, it could be cookery, it could be poetry. You know, it needs to be inclusive. So not every child is interested in sport, but I think sport makes sense initially because you know people understand that. But I think you know, it's about doing stuff and practicing things in the real world as opposed to spending all your time doing it online.
Yeah, exactly. And that probably brings an interesting question about the metaverse. I know we've spoken about it before, and my opinion of it is it's obviously going to happen, but I hate the idea of the next generation, certainly my kids, their online life being much more exciting than their real life world is.
They live through a fake persona that appears to be better than their actual personality, then that Hody will tell you exactly what the problem with that
Yeah,
is.
so as sort of mental health experts, what's the upside and downside of with the perspective?
Well, I think it's important that virtual is great, but for it not to replace human connection entirely, isn't it? I think it's connection is a biological imperative for human beings. Our nervous systems need to resonate with the nervous systems of other human beings. We need to look into people's eyes. We need to be able to neurocept a sense of safety from other people, and I think it's really important to make sure that we are out there doing those things as well. I think the other thing that's a little bit concerning as well, as far as the metaverse is concerned, is this idea that the more attractive and appealing your virtual self becomes, then the more self-rejecting you become in terms of your real human authentic self. So that's something just to be aware of as well. So I think the potential damage to your self-esteem in terms of the self-concept you develop, the understanding of who you are, your authentic self, and the idea that that authentic self is not as appealing or exciting or as attractive as my virtual self has some potential dangers there, I feel.
Yeah, we've recently proudly introduced Professor Paul Dolan, who's a world-renowned behavioural scientist in health behaviour. He's advised a number of governments, including the UK government, and is a best-selling author in happiness and design measures for the Office of National Statistics. And Paul's inclusion is important because what he's going to be able to do, he wanted to get involved specifically in this project where he can, on the striver true side of the fence, look at the metrics and make sure that they're saliently going about what they need to be doing. You know, he's a health economist and and data's his game. He's got access. He also is used to talking to policy holders, because I think there's a social responsibility for individual companies, but I think also there needs to be more done from a legislation point of view. So Paul's going to be helping, and then what he'll do our side of the fence is help us to make sure that the right advice, tools and resources are therefore delivered to the kids based on those that of greatest need, what the biggest problems are, and he'll have access to all the right data to help inform us for that. So that's this is a new journey for us. This is sort of two projects that were going on, and in fact, I heard you did a podcast with Simon Gunning, I think, Campaign Against Living Miserably. I think The White Wall, about mental health and the stigma around it, and that's how Tim and I met. And then we were talking about, he told me about his boy, and I said, well, my kid says he wants to be a YouTuber, and it terrifies me, and what can we do about this? And here we are. So, but it's early stages, but exciting.
Yeah, so it's interesting talking to, I won't call him Professor Paul Dolan every time we refer to him, because it'll get quite tedious for all of us, I think. So we'll call him Paul from now on.
I haven't told Gilberto he's a West Ham fan yet, so that could be a disaster.
We need to start recruiting some Arsenal fans.
Yeah, but
sorry.
no, we have things for clubs. This is good.
So it's interesting talking to Paul. We wanted to say, look, we want to make some unilateral, massive changes to social media. But after talking, he said, well, actually, you don't need to. You can make small, incremental changes, which make massive difference. So we're not going to give everything away here. But, for example, one small change with removing likes. So you'll have a like functionality, but we won't be calling it likes. Like's an arbitrary word saying, I like you, I like what you've done, you look pretty. Well, rather than we want to be a platform which is congratulating and inspiring activity. So we're changing it to kudos. And kudos means a reward for achieving something. So that's the sort of tiny little changes that we're going to be doing to the platform that are going to make gradual differences to people's lives. That's not the only thing we're doing, by the way. So what do you want to talk to us about the background? So why don't you talk to us a little bit about a few of the things that we'll be doing on the platform to improve young people's mental health?
Also young people, based on my experience with my own children's attention spans aren't always the greatest, and that's half of the problem. So what we have to do is feed them bite-sized, simple stuff in their language, in ways in which they'll understand, which will be, not. We know what scientifically we need to deliver. Everything we do is evidence-based, but it's making sure that we can deliver it in bite-sized, simple, and language and terminology that young people are going to engage with. And we'll need to, along the way, look for peers within their age range to be able to deliver that message, rather than grey-haired blokes like me doing it, which won't get anywhere. So, yeah, and I mean, it will start off with, simple tips and advice. I think we can run challenges that are quite innovative, where the challenge might be about cookery or something completely different, but then we can talk about the relationship between food and mood, or music and mood, for example. So I think we need to find ways to deliver the content in a creative way that young people can get involved in, rather than say, listen to some meditate. We do all of that, but it's about how you get people to initially start to think about their mental fitness, and if you can get someone to do something for 10 seconds, you might somewhere down the line get them to do it for a minute, 3 minutes, and whatever. And I think the failing I've seen with a lot of other stuff is that you ask for too much of a commitment too early. So I think
I think it's going to be authentic as well, because people nowadays can see through things that are just totally artificial. It has to have meaning for it, and we need to believe in what we're doing, rather than going, hey, let's sort someone's mental health out. Let's say we're a platform that helps people's mental health.
Yeah.
We'll give them a breathing exercise to do. Well, actually, we need to consider it more. And do we believe in it? I think people, every social platform, every user of a social media platform can intrinsically tell something that's artificial and not authentic.
Yeah, absolutely.
No? But Tony, talk to us a little bit about your experience of social media as a player, and now obviously working in the world of sports. Yeah. What's been your experience of it, positive and negative? Hopefully positive.
Well, I think it has changed a lot when I was playing, for example. Being here at Arsenal at that time, social media was not that strong. I don't know if it was even started properly. And it was funny because later on from here I moved to Greece. Was still play for Brazil, but in Brazil, for people know about what was going to happen to me there, about the games. They didn't know how to get the information, especially reading Greek, was not something easy for them. And on that time, I remember when I create my first Twitter account. It was fun because I started to engage with the platform. Sometimes, of course, I did something stupid. Oh, let's have a coffee with me here, with the people on the other side. I don't know where they were in the world. But it was, for me, a way of, listen, I'm here in Greece. If you want to know about what's happening here, maybe you now find in the newspaper, the news that we can, unless you use Google Translate. But I'm here feeding you with some information about the games, about the score, about the training session. This is how I use, the platform to send information. Because at that time, when I moved to Greece, I was still in the national team. The World Cup 2010 was coming. I said, listen, if they don't know what I'm doing, it would be hard for me to be in the squad. It was a kind of way to get attraction, from the journalists and get interested. This is how I start to engage properly. And then later on, I understood that, this tool is much more than just give a picture of my coffee. It's about deliver a right message for the fans, for people, and a positive message. Because for me, when I look back, what I have done in football was always about being correct. Using the power of the game to inspire people to become a better person, to help others, to engage with people, work in the community, and be the best version of me every day in this game. Because the power of it and how we can impact on a bad or good way, depends of our behavior. And by the time passed, I start to learn in a better way. And then when we had this opportunity, when I compare nowadays from this time, I told you, it's totally different, because I never have a phone in the dressing room before the game and take a picture of before the game starts. I was just focused on the game. But nowadays, the players use it before the game. They show, what's happening after the game. It's the way. I think has changed. We have, I managed to adapt myself. I'm a little bit more like old version, old traditional version. And but we have to adapt a way, even with my kids now, they are there. I try to bring them on a different way, play outside, use, but not abuse of the time to make things worse for them, especially mentally. I think when we start to talk about it, about what we can provide in the platform, is something that we say, listen, we have to find a way how to make it happen, and let's put all of our energy, have the right team to work with, and do the best we can, because I do believe that we can impact people in a positive way, and as much as we can. If we can do this, I think this is our goal as a father, a human being, to be here doing our best and using the technology now.
Cool. Well, I think that's a great point to end. So
Yeah.
thanks a lot for listening to us all. And yeah,
Thank
see
you
you later.
very much.
Enjoy the rest of the convention.
Thank you.
Cheers.